When talking about Lethal Company, there are many minor details and oddities that may go unnoticed by most people, so to bring some of these things to light, I've compiled a list of 70 useless facts about the game. I'll be going over trivia, bugs, quirks, and whatever the hell this is. You know how on the main menu, highlighting a button turns it orange and the text color turns to black to contrast it? There's exactly one button that does not change its text color, and that's the Join LAN Session button. I would say the weirdest button in this game's menus though is the back button located under Settings. Normally it looks like any other button, prefixed with a greater than symbol and having first letter capitalization. However, if any setting on this page is touched or I click Confirm Changes, now it just says Back! And if I had changed the setting, the Discard version of this button is equally out of place. A similar thing happens here when loaded into a save file, except now it only loses the greater than symbol instead of freaking yelling at me too. Same with the Discard Changes version. The back of the sticky note uses the same texture as its front side, but very zoomed into the N. You can easily see this in-game by walking up against a wall while holding it. The training manual has a unique grabbing animation. It's subtle and looks similar to other items, but comparing it back to back with, let's say, the sticky note, you can see the clipboard is held farther away from your face. Swapping directly between the two items makes it even more clear, since your arm has to keep moving between these positions. If you've read the training manual, you may know of the survival kit mentioned on page 2, which is an equipment bundle containing 4 flashlights, 4 walkie-talkies, and 1 shovel. It's also been bugged to give incorrect items since v60, but that's besides the point. The main point I'm bringing up is that the terminal's info page for the kit mistakenly lists 2 shovels as being included instead of 1. The pillars lining the walls here are all the same shape, except for this one, which has an angled trim at the bottom. You will never unsee this. The ship charging coil's hitbox extends all the way to the ceiling. When storing furniture, there's a special area outside the map only certain ones get moved to. The cupboard, bunk beds, and file cabinet all go to these coordinates, while every other piece of furniture or ship upgrade just disappears until you recall it. Some ship objects just aren't able to be stored at all though. The light switch and terminal are the obvious ones, but there's also cozy lights, which can't even be moved to begin with, and the welcome mat, which is bugged. And I guess you could also count container furniture that has scrap in it. The loud horn only has collision in its cord. This means you can crouch underneath it and walk through it, however pulling down the cord will prevent this. You probably know that it's possible to get on top of the cupboard by deselecting it while jumping, but if you then crouch and enter the terminal from up here, you'll have a slightly zoomed out view along with a silly looking foot. If instead of the terminal you pull the lever from up here, it looks like that. When placing items in something like the cupboard, you can get them to sit on the walls and even ceiling above the shelf by quickly moving your mouse as the item is being placed. This doesn't work if you're the lobby host and is made easier with higher ping. Speaking of the cupboard, have you ever tried organizing items and finding that they still look strewn around on the shelf? Well, this is because when an item is placed on a shelf, it keeps the previous ground rotation it had before it was picked up. So dropping all your items at the same angle like this, and then storing them will line them up nicely. The same applies to the company desk, anywhere on the cruiser, and in the fridge or microwave. In vanilla, these rotations get desynced between each person, so if you were to deploy an extension ladder on top of the cruiser, it could result in something like this happening. Using the microwave, you can get equipment to spin on the ground anywhere. Just place a tool in, close the door, then use a belt bag to grab and drop it outside. Voila! By the way, this was much simpler to do in the initial release of v70, not even requiring a belt bag to pull off. Here, wait, let's see if it spins now, so... It's in the microwave. Oh, look! You know how when orbiting a moon you can see it and its planet from the security camera since they're right outside? Well, when performing a crew eject, the planet and moon both snap to the side as the doors open, seemingly getting ejected along with your team. You can even see the back of the planet to your right as the life drains from your eyes. The security cameras located in the ship aren't able to show everything properly. All of the terminal except for the keyboard is invisible because the camera doesn't render the decal-stickable surface layer. And as for other ship objects, the fridge's magnets are gone, the jack-o'-lantern's light isn't properly cast, the doghouse doesn't have its fog, and anything with some sort of transparency will just not show. This isn't limited to just the goldfish and shower though, as each of these items are completely invisible as well. There are also items that only partially show on the camera, most notably being the toilet paper, which loses its wrapping, and radar booster, of which the top half is seen minimized into what's supposed to be the bottom stem. As for the other items, I've listed their differences up on the screen so this part doesn't take too long.
What are you doing? What are you spending our money on?
Oh, me? Nothing. Take a look for yourself. That's right, typing 0 as the quantity for purchasing a store item will actually purchase 0 of it. Fun for messing with your coworkers. There are a few commands that aren't ever explicitly stated as existing within the terminal's help menus. Although the radar booster's flash command is mentioned in its info page, it is not listed on the other commands page, even though the ping command is. The upgrades command is an old remnant from version 9. This menu would display a list of ship upgrades, which only contained the teleporter at the time, with furniture items just underneath it. This command is still present in the game to this day, but as you can see, it never got updated with the new upgrades. The furniture got moved to a separate command, Decor, which displays all furniture currently in rotation without you having to scroll down the main store page. When placing an order for ship upgrades, the inverse teleporter and loudhorn are the only ones actually referred to as ship upgrades in their ordering dialogue. The teleporter and signal translator have the same basic text as any other item. In a similar vein to that, the goldfish and welcome mat are the only decor items that have a special describing text in their ordering dialogue. The goldfish comes with a complimentary glass bowl, and the welcome mat will make everyone feel at home. I like these lines a lot and wish there was something like it for every other piece of furniture. Here's a few custom ones I thought of that I think would fit right in. The mapper is an unused store item that still has data in the terminal. By typing info mapper, you can read its description and even attempt to purchase it. I say attempt because although there is confirmation dialogue here, it merely purchased a shovel instead. Pressing Shift H brings up this little error console, which looks kinda cool and has a funny typo if you look closely. Internally, the function for this is called Speed Cheat, and that's because in alpha builds of the game, this key combination would instead give you super speed, and I guess it was repurposed for this menu later on. Also, this was a particularly annoying feature for me specifically because I used to use a keyboard layout with H as a movement key, so I would always accidentally open it while playing. The amount of weight displayed on the HUD while holding an item is rounded from its actual value. For example, holding one wedding ring weighs 16 pounds, but holding 4 of them weighs 63 pounds, meaning the true weight of a wedding ring is 15.75 pounds. Many other items have a decimal number like this, and you can see it by using either player HUD tweaks or legal HUD. The apparatus has a model number on one of its sides, and this is reused on the tail end of the company cruiser. It's a bit hard to tell, but you can just barely make out the blurred shapes of each character. The tooltips in the top right show the name of what item you're holding, and most of the time this matches up with what your scanner calls it. However, sometimes it's just a little bit off. For example, these items merely have different capitalization between the scan node and tooltip, and all of these items have differing wording or spelling entirely. There's a lot I could say about equipment icons, but I'll just keep it at this for now. The Zapgun's icon appears to use an older version of its model, with this bit here being more detached than in the final game. You can hear a radar booster deactivate twice by clicking while it's on and then pocketing it quickly after. In most situations, dropping an item works as you'd expect. However, if an item is dropped more than 80 units above any floor, it will be left floating out of bounds. As I keep dropping these bottles lower, it'll finally make its way to the ground once it's under that 80 unit threshold. Some easy locations you can do this are areas without any floor, such as anywhere outside the facility, and anywhere directly above the oceans of Gordian, primarily past the railing.
Eric, just land on there.
Oh shit, bye.
God! I'm alive!
Oh, it caught him! As a side note to this, the out of bounds height used to be much lower. I can't speak for all versions because I haven't tested them all, but at least in version 9 you couldn't even drop items off a small ledge like this. Inspecting is a feature that as of v73 very few items have, as you can see listed here. You'd only ever know this about these items since they actually have a tooltip explaining that you can't do it. The rest, however, do not have such a tip, but mostly seem intentional, so maybe these are Easter eggs? Except for the sapsucker egg, that probably isn't meant to be inspectable, so this functionality may be patched out like it was for the extension ladder and radar booster previously. If you were to pocket a sapsucker egg, the shell would still be visible in your hand even when you start holding something completely different. The toy cube's texture is wrapped to its model very inaccurately. It's for this reason you may have heard some people say the cube isn't solvable, because as it appears in game, it's not. There are nonsensical colors on certain pieces, such as this corner with 2 orange stickers and this edge with 2 white stickers. However, taking a closer look at the original texture file reveals it's not meant to be like this. To demonstrate this, I printed out the texture, cut it up, and folded it into a cube. Then I recreated that pattern on an actual 3x3, which didn't require any sort of disassembly. This is what the toy cube is supposed to look like. Also, just for fun, I dismembered a different cube and gave it the fucked up color patterns of the original one. This is probably as close as I'll get to official Lethal Company merch, god damn it. The human heart from Dyne will beat faster depending on how severely you have the fear effect. During the low action phase, it's supposed to look and sound like this, and during the high action phase, it's supposed to look and sound like this. I say supposed to because in my testing, the animation speed breaks very frequently, and it's unlikely to see this happen exactly as it's intended. Using a zap gun, get it? Because the zap gun sucks? No, but using a zap gun while getting grabbed has an odd interaction that could theoretically help you out. If grabbed by a masked, you'll have free movement with a locked camera, but it'll still kill you once the animation finishes. If this happens next to an exit, you could possibly escape if you're facing the right way, canceling the death. If not, then at least you're able to drop your items to prevent them from getting deleted. Same for if a forest giant grabs you, except in that case you don't have the free movement to escape. While holding an item that uses two hands, which isn't necessarily the same as a two-handed item, your emotes will be slightly limited. Your hands won't move when dancing, and pointing just makes you lean forward a little bit. I do like the two-handed point emote paired up with the shotgun though, because it looks like you're trying to threaten somebody with it. The fancy lamp does not have a light bulb. This game is actually unplayable. Player bodies will only float in water if their cause of death is by drowning. Any other cause of death means they'll just sink to the bottom. Additionally, they will exclusively float to the surface height of whichever body of water it drowned in, meaning if you take a body from this lake behind Adamans and drop it into the pit over here, it'll float in midair. Since interiors are located far underneath the map, taking a body that's drowned inside causes it to fly into the ceiling. The opposite is true as well. A body that's drowned in either water caves or the mansion's pool will be met with an incredible gravitational force upon being brought outdoors. The only way to get a body to stop being pulled to the water is by collecting it onto the ship. For this fact, I will simply read the text on the back of a can of Sprazy paint. Contact the Poison Control Center if your eyes or mouth have gotten even a little sprazy, as the sprazy, crazy, wacky, zany paint can reach the brain and make it a little wacky zany. 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 When climbing up ladders, your right hand will appear to have a much weaker grip than your left hand. Using a mod to slow down time, a side-by-side view makes this more obvious. The Jester's texture has a small splotch of 26 pink pixels on the top of its box. This is another thing you will not be able to unsee, I am sorry. The skin of hoarding bugs is semi-transparent, and upon a closer look, it's possible to see right through them. Hoarding bugs also have fully modeled organs which are supposed to be faintly visible from the outside, but as you can see, it doesn't quite work right. It's actually possible for beehives to spawn up in a tree, as would be expected from a real-life beehive. I've only seen this happen twice before. One such case was exactly here on March in v73. Here's a better look at it with the surrounding trees cleared out. Grabbing this hive is safe as well, because the bees have absolutely no idea what's happening. Eyeless dogs and man-eaters have jiggle physics on their heads. When a dog spawns, its head will get yanked to its body from far away, and adult man-eaters only have the jiggle physics after they've done a lunge and enter pursuit mode. This is much more noticeable as a non-host client, especially if you happen to watch a dog spawn. Look at that sausage. You can also notice something similar happen as a client while watching a snare flea, hoarding bug, or tulip snake spawn as well. When a barber snips somebody in half, you can only pick up and retrieve the torso. The legs are mostly immovable and have collision for some reason. You can step over them, and even drop items on top of them. The legs can only be moved around by pushing another ragdoll into it, such as the torso or another body. They can also be carried by the company cruiser.
This is where I keep all of my legs. Do you like it?
What I learned though is that the cruiser really does not like interacting with this much collision. They're dancing! They're dancing! Why is the car rotating? If your extension ladder gets stolen by a hoarding bug, the ladder will actually get deployed when it gets dropped, even if by killing the bug. If the hoarding bug picks up an already extended ladder, it will retract upon hitting the ground. Sometimes it'll also enter this funny mode of extending the ladder and going, ah shit, I didn't mean to do that. As if what it did was a mistake and it's fixing it. Combine this with the microwave fact from earlier and you can witness an extended spinning ladder. Oh! You know these yellow railings? They show up in many places across the game, but it doesn't always look the same. Most of the time it'll look as follows, having a yellow color with a metal texture and a plain beam running through the middle. This is the most common pattern, being used almost everywhere in the facility, as well as the locations listed on screen. The second most common appearance is just plain yellow with no texture. This can notably be seen on the ship and in the middle of locker rooms. The final pattern has the metal texture applied to just these vertical parts of the railing and is only found on the stairs inside Artifice's warehouses and this specific segment of the upstairs catwalk in locker rooms. In Alpha version 9, the Boombox 2 song was much more bare bones, missing its whole melody as well as having a Discord notification sound at the end. I'm assuming this was a way for Zegers to troll his friends while they all playtested the game, which is a pretty funny thought. One of the laughs you can hear from a comedy mask has some kind of noise in the background of the 8th chuckle. Perhaps it's somebody speaking? I don't know, there's probably no way to tell with how it's been edited. There are 4 different types of sound for managing items in your inventory: grabbing, pocketing, unpocketing, and dropping. Most items will typically have sounds for grabbing and dropping, with numerous exceptions, and those with a grab sound will by extension also have an unpocketing sound, since these two always use the same audio file. The one exception to this is the belt bag, which has a distinct audio for each of these 4 actions. On the contrary, the only item with no sounds for any of these actions is the whoopee cushion. And I guess the mapper too, but it's unused and unfinished, and I don't know if it really counts, but it also doesn't have any sounds like the whoopee cushion. I don't know, bro. Now if you're thinking, hey wait a minute, I hear the whoopee cushion sometimes when dropping it. Well, that is true that it can happen, and as far as I can tell it only does because you're dropping the whoopee cushion into your own hitbox. This is best demonstrated by first dropping it while looking straight, and then dropping it while looking up. You can see the noise is only triggered by falling into your hitbox and not by hitting the ground. Very few items have a pocketing sound, mostly just the equipment you see on screen now. Out of all scrap items, however, exactly 3 of them have a pocketing sound. The laser pointer, likely due to copied code from the flashlight, the bone, and the ribcage, which you could never normally hear in-game due to it being two-handed. Why, Zeekers? Why? The player body is supposed to have a sound for dropping it, but this doesn't play as you'd normally expect. I'm assuming this happens because the ragdoll doesn't have a proper check for hitting the ground to play it, but there are a few edge cases where you will hear the sound in-game. Holding somebody's body as they respawn at the end of a day, placing a body on the company desk to sell, and placing a body in any of the out-of-bounds zones mentioned earlier. Side note, you can use Imperium to spawn in the static prefab of a body, which will behave like a normal item without ragdoll. Double side note, there are 2 more versions of this body collision sound that are unused. Ambient Music 6 actually has a sort of official name. One time Zeekers sent a preview of this song in the Patreon Hangout channel of his server, and the file name was called Remembrance. As far as we know, none of the other ambient songs have names like this, but hey, I'll take what I can get. During rainy and stormy weather, you can see an overlay of condensation on the helmet's visor while looking up at the sky. This is not present during flooded weather, even though it visually also has rain. In the skies of Adamance, there is a singular patch of floating grass, the shadow of which starts rolling down this hill at 9 AM, then eventually moves all the way over here, ending its journey in the lake at 12:30. Also on Adamance, the roof of main entrance has 1 improperly textured tile. You can get yourself on the company desk by just jumping into the left side of it. It may take a few tries, but once you land on it, just crouch and walk in. You can only walk to the middle of it as items are being sold, and doing so may get you stuck as a result. The same method to get in also works for the wardrobes found in mansions, but don't think that means you can hide from monsters like in Repo. The ceiling of the company desk goes way up into the wall, and pokes out due to being at a lower angle than the wall. This means it's possible to stand on top of this ceiling, though you can't really use a jetpack for this due to your enlarged hitbox. Surprisingly, I think the extension ladder chaos from earlier is the best way to reach it. Artifice is the only moon where going under its exterior will warp you back to ship. The other moons either let you walk freely underneath, or just don't have areas that go low enough to explore. You can sort of stay under Artifice though, by jetpacking to these rocks under the ship. Thanks, rocks! The item dropship is always present on any given moon, even if you haven't purchased any items. Though invisible, its hitbox typically sits at around 290 units in the sky, but its position varies with each moon. After purchasing an item, the dropship's thrusters will continue to make noise until the ship goes into orbit. If you're careful enough with a jetpack and know exactly where to land, you could stand on top of it in-game. I don't recommend this though. In the mansion's birthday party room, all the balloons are blank except for the pink ones, which have a happy birthday decal on them. Advertisements have a few funny quirks about them. The background pattern of polka dots has one of what could either be a balloon or a whoopee cushion. The jack-o'-lantern doesn't display its hyphens, even though it does just fine with these items. The letter P has this weird artifact in these items. The shower's glass doesn't show up at all, which is weird considering the goldfish looks just fine. And you can also very briefly see the extension ladder fully deployed before being retracted and closing its lid. Hey look, it's rocks again.
Oh my god, hi rocks!
What the fuck? These rocks next to Vow's wooden bridge might not actually be real. Walking on them produces the default wooden footstep sound, which gives me the impression they're sorta like those decorative hollow rocks you might find at a theme park or a mini golf course. The giant sapsucker has this funny animation it can do rarely where it stretches, dances, I don't know. But it has been confirmed by Zeekers to be a reference to the American sometimes called the timber doodle doing this. You can initiate a crew eject while landing on any moon by precisely entering confirm as somebody else starts pulling the ship lever. If done right, the day will start and everybody will be launched out into the moon's atmosphere.
As you have not met the profit quota, welcome to our disciplinary process.
Once the statistics screen pops up, you'll find that the ship is still landed on whatever moon you chose. Despite this, the game still thinks the ship is in orbit, so you're unable to leave. If you look closely, you can also see the space versions of the planet and moon outside the door. At this point, the only thing you can do now is get the ship into orbit and find that the first day of your run is wasted. Nice! Behind the facility interior's main entrance door, there is an intangible concrete platform that's only visible in FreeCam on the navigation surface layer. Combine this with the concrete edges surrounding the door and we can infer this is from an ancient version of Lethal Company. I personally think the door was supposed to spawn back here and you'd have to walk up a little further to get inside, but since the door was simply moved forward and that's it, there is not an actual wall behind it. The door covers this up enough to keep you inside, but there are noticeable gaps on either side you can partially walk into. Also, if rooms generate behind the door, you can accidentally interact with entities based on visions such as Ghost Girl, Coilheads, Bracken, and Nutcrackers. This platform is present in the mansion interior as well, but thankfully there is an actual wall behind the door this time. Walkie-talkies have a barcode on the back of them, but it's hard to tell what's actually in it because the texture is slightly warped. I tried scanning it and got a variety of different random numbers, super vegan protein powder, roast beef and onion potato crisps, but my absolute favorite was it just saying, why? You know, good question. There's also another barcode located on the plastic bins you can find on facility shelves. Scanning it results in... okay, that number is gibberish. It's actually shown backwards in-game, but scanning the original texture results in... Okay, you wanna know what this is? You really wanna know what this is? I'll tell you what this is! It's a fucking The company building has a main entrance scan node, despite obviously not having an interior. This can be seen by running to the back of the ship as it's taking off or landing and scanning while looking straight. This being located here is interesting to me because there are also outdoor AI nodes copied over from Assurance, so depending on how long ago these were copied, it's possible Assurance's main entrance building used to be located here at one point. Assurance and Offense are clearly very similar in terms of visuals, but did you know they're also the exact same moon layout? All you have to do to turn one into the other is rotate, mirror, and shift the terrain a bit, and bam! Now the only difference is the position of various things like rocks, pipes, entrances, and the ship. This reminds me quite a bit of how the Pikmin series reused maps in its second game, taking the same terrain and shuffling things around to feel new. You may see this as laziness on Zeeker's part, but I think it works well enough. This is the entirety of the company building. By toggling the default rendering layer, we can see that the main wall has been copied and pasted on either side of it. This also means there are 2 extra, non-functional selling desks in both of these copies. Oh, you might be wondering about this white platform here. This is the Spectator platform. It's a piece of every map in the game far away from the playable area where unused player slots are stored. This is only easily accessible on the company building, Dine, and Titan due to having such open areas with terrain that doesn't cover it up. But Dine is the best in this case since these unused players sit right at ground level. And this is good because you can actually somewhat interact with these guys. Attacking them directly won't do anything though. Smacking, stabbing, shooting, ramming, they're invincible. Or so I thought until I dropped an extension ladder on them. Did that kill me? Why are there 2 out of 3 votes cast with my vote being stuck half filled? Who the fuck are you? Upon going into orbit, this guy that I killed respawned, and now there are 2 employees in my single player lobby. It's kinda like a voodoo doll with its own health bar. If you damage it, its health will deplete until dying, which shows on your HUD by the way, and immediately starts the ship. I am still alive here, but all the game sees is 1 player died in this lobby with 1 player. That must mean everybody's dead. It can be targeted on the radar and teleported, but not inversed in. It doesn't really have any practical uses since it can't draw aggro from entities, with the exceptions of circuit bees and masked. It also isn't limited to just this one guy. You can continue to repeat the ladder process until all unused players are collected in the ship like trophies. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Catcha, tiger, bites, toe. Iffy, hollers, let him go. Eeny, meeny, miny, oh. Well, that seems like a good place to wrap this up. There's a lot I decided to cut out of this video, so maybe at some point I'll make a second part with more facts, but until then, I hope you found this enjoyable. Special thanks to Purple for inspiring me to make this in the first place, as well as providing some of the things I talked about. Bye now.